I've already done a video like this for period dramas, but this time I'm going to be ranking sad films and I'm going to be ranking them based on what I thought of them. Before we get into the rankings, I first need to tell you the different headings for the rankings that I have. So our first ranking, and this is the bottom part of the scale, is practically a comedy. So these are the films that they weren't really that sad. They were practically a comedy. I probably laughed during them. Yeah, this is the lowest ranking. And next, one step up, we have Nicholas Sparks. So Nicholas Sparks is the author of books like The Notebook, A Walk to Remember, and his category is things that they're sad in theory, but then when I watch them, I don't really feel that sad. I definitely don't laugh, and it's not a comedy, but they don't hit me as much as some of the other films on the list. And then one step up, we have Okay. Okay, now this is a quote from the movie The Fault in Our Stars. It's what Augustus and Hazel say to each other. It's their version of Always, I think is what they say. And this is pretty sad. These films are pretty sad, but I'm still okay. I'm still okay. They're sad, but I'm still okay. Then the next level up, we have My Tears Ricochet. Now this is a Taylor Swift song. These are films that are sad, straight up sad. I'm crying. I'm probably crying my eyes out. I'm pretty sad watching these movies. And then right at the top, we have Sobbing, Crying and Throwing Up. These are the films that are just beyond belief sad, soul-crushing, gut-wrenching, sad films. These are the saddest films I've ever seen. Yeah, that's the top section. If I've counted correctly, there are 40 films on this list. So let's just get straight into the rankings. Okay, first up, I'm going to be talking about the film Atonement. This was also actually my period drama ranking video, so a little bit of a crossover there. But Atonement is essentially about people, it's about this family before World War II, this wealthy family who live in this big house. There's a sister, an older brother, a younger sister, and their parents. And the middle sister, Cecilia, she has this kind of flirtation going on with the housekeeper's son named Robbie. Now the youngest sister, Cecilia, has this kind of really vivid imagination, and she's a child and doesn't understand things as an adult would, and she perceives an event between Cecilia and Robbie that makes her have a certain view, and this then makes her make certain accusations later on in the film, which then lead in a butterfly effect, cascading of events that ruin people's lives essentially. And yeah, when I watched this film for the first time ever when I was like 7, I found it very, very sad. And then I rewatched it when I was a teenager and yeah, cried my eyes out, found it so, so sad. Yeah, it's just the film has a lot of regret and remorse and kind of the regret of what could have been. There's a lot of that, and it's also set during wartime, so there's a lot of sadness there. And it is just a very sad film, but I am going to be putting Atonement in My Tears Ricochet, so not the saddest of the sad, but level 2, because it is sad, it's definitely sad, but when I read the book and then rewatched the film actually wasn't as sad as I remembered, surprisingly. I think maybe on the first watch it is pretty gut-wrenching, but subsequent watches it gets less and less sad because I guess you're kind of desensitized to what is going to happen. So yeah, Atonement is going in My Tears Ricochet. Okay, next up we have The Wind That Shakes the Barley. Now this is a film starring Cillian Murphy, which is the only reason I watched it, to be honest, and it is essentially about the Troubles in Ireland. I believe it's still the Troubles because it's kind of where it started, so it's set, I believe, like 1920s era, and it's essentially about the Irish wanting the British to stop ruling over them essentially, and then because of this a group who I believe later become the IRA are formed because they don't want Britain having power over them. But then there's also a half of Ireland that is okay with Britain having power if they come to an agreement. They have terms for this kind of ruling, and Cillian's character is an Irish man. His brother is one of the kind of like leaders of this IRA-esque group, and it's all about Cillian. I think Cillian's more on the other side, and it's all about him and his brother kind of fighting against each other, which is kind of just a big allegory for the Troubles themselves, where you had Irish against Irish and neighbour against neighbour. Yeah, this film is pretty sad. Just with the subject matter, it's pretty sad, and Cillian Murphy does give a very good performance. So I would call this a sad film, but I'm going to be putting The Wind That Shakes the Barley into Nicholas Sparks, because it's definitely not a comedy, but it didn't touch me that much. I could relate that what I was seeing was sad, but it didn't actually touch me that much. And I think if Cillian wasn't in it, it probably would have touched me even less. So yeah, Wind That Shakes the Barley is going in Nicholas Sparks. Next we have The Testament of Youth. Now I believe this film is based on a true story, which is crazy, but The Testament of Youth is about a woman in England before World War One, I believe, and essentially she has two brothers and a dad, and her two brothers go off to fight in the war, and she stays home, or she becomes a nurse. I think she becomes a nurse as well, so she also helps with the war effort, and it's essentially about how the war tears this family apart, essentially, and that's the kind of plot. She also has a lover, like a betrothed, who also goes to the war, so there's a lot of people are leaving her type thing. And the film focuses a lot on poetry as well, and kind of letters, because I think if it is a true story, a lot of it was based on the letters that she would receive from the front, from the people that she knew that were there. That's what Testament of Youth is about, and I would put Testament of Youth in okay, because I was definitely sad. It definitely has sad moments, but again, it was definitely sad, but I don't remember crying. It didn't touch me enough to cry. I think this is probably just a testament to how I think we're quite desensitized to war films and to, yeah, things about the war and people losing people in the war. I feel like we're quite desensitized to that because there are just so many movies about it, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's an interesting topic and it's a good topic to explore, but I feel like I've seen just so many that if they're not amazing, they're not going to elicit a massive response from me, which is what A Testament of Youth failed to do. Next up we have The Farewell. Now The Farewell is about a Chinese family, and our protagonist lives in America, so her parents moved to America and she lives there with them, but they go back to their home country because their nan is ill. So the nan of kind of her nan and kind of like the matriarch of the family, she's ill. And I didn't know this, but in their country, and I don't know if this is true, but I think it is because it happens in the film. In this country, if you find out, if the doctors, if you're not feeling well, the doctors check you and they find out that you are probably going to die, they tell your family and not you, and the family have the option to not tell you, which I think is crazy coming from a Western view and coming from like a UK point of view. Yeah, they can make that choice, and they believe that if you don't tell the person, it's better, because they worry that if the person knows, they'll be more ill because they'll worry and all of this stuff. And like, honestly, I can see the facts in that, and I can see the thought process, but me personally, I would tell my family member and I would want to know if it was me. But yeah, this is what they do, and so they find out that she is probably going to die, and none of them tell her, but they all come to visit. So she's kind of like, why is everyone here? So then they mask it by one of the, I think it's either the protagonist's brother or her cousin, by him getting married. So they say, we're here for his wedding, but actually they're all kind of there to say goodbye to their nan without her knowing, which is why it's called The Farewell. And I'm going to be putting The Farewell into practically a comedy. Now, I do not mean this as an insult at all. I think it is a very, very good film, but it was kind of marketed to me as a sad film, and I don't think it was that sad, which isn't a bad thing, but for this list it means it's at the bottom tier. But yeah, I didn't find it that sad. I found it very funny. There were definitely touching moments, and I probably did shed a tear here and there, but overall the feeling that I left the movie with was joy. And yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I think it's a really good movie, but as far as its sadness level, practically a comedy. I definitely laughed many times, and yeah, definitely touching, but I didn't cry my eyes out and it was not gut-wrenching for me. But yeah, I did really enjoy it and I would really recommend it, but it's practically a comedy for the farewell. Next up we have A Walk to Remember. I mentioned this briefly with Nicholas Sparks. So A Walk to Remember is based on the novel by Nicholas Sparks, which I have read. The film is better. Don't read the novel, just watch the film. And I love the film A Walk to Remember. I think it's just perfect. I love it so much. It's essentially about this bad boy in this town in America who does something wrong and he has to do like community service. So he has to tutor kids and he has to be in the school play. Now because of this, he ends up spending a lot of time with the kind of like good girl of the school called Jamie. The boy's called Landon, and he ends up spending a lot of time with her. Now Jamie, his friend group of like the popular kids always make fun of her because she is so kind of like goody two-shoes and she like really believes in God. She's really religious, and he ends up spending a lot of time with her and they end up falling in love. But then in true Nicholas Sparks fashion, things happen and it ends up being very sad. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it ends up being quite a sad story, and it's not just a romance. And I'm putting A Walk to Remember in my tears ricochet, so the second tier, because yeah, that film makes me cry a lot. It does hit me very hard. I think it is very sad, but it is a very good story in terms of it is really sad, but it's not the type of film where I feel like it's sad for no reason. Like it's kind of like, at no point was I like, well, why did you take the story this way? I found real kind of poetic messaging with the plot and the message that they're trying to give. That came across to me very well, and I think the film is very good and very beautiful, to be honest. Very beautiful, very touching, but yes, ultimately also very sad. So that is going in my tears ricochet. Next we have the film Never Let Me Go. Now Never Let Me Go is based on a novel which I've also read, and it is essentially a dystopian kind of world where the government take people who need the money, so it tends to be like homeless people and drug addicts and stuff. They get people who need the money to give their DNA and then they get paid for it. And what they do with this DNA is they then clone the people, and they use these clones in order to harvest their organs. So to use their organs when they're fully grown for people who need organs, who need heart transplants, who need kidney transplants and all of those things. So that's the kind of plot. But essentially when you clone someone in this world, they become they're a baby. Like the clone is a baby, so you have to raise this clone and they can't give up their organs until they're adults, because like they need to be adults, I guess, like because other adults need the organs. So they raise these children, they raise them at this school, Havisham, and they raise them there, all of these kids, and they nourish their bodies, and they also teach them. So it is a school, they do teach them and they give them a kind of life. But yeah, it's a very bleak and depressing film, I would say, because you're looking at the point of view of the clone as someone who was born in order to be used and harvested. And also there's this whole thing of the clones don't really know, because it's not something that the school is kind of saying, yep, you're born for this reason. They kind of know that they're gonna die early and like where their life is headed and stuff. They know kind of like that, but it's kind of vague, and it's not ever spelled fully out to them by the people that raised them, that like their life is just a means to help other people, essentially. Yeah, so because you have it from the point of view of the clone, it's just unimaginable. Like the clone essentially they don't get lives, even though they are real people. They are people despite being clones. So I'm going to put Never Let Me Go in okay. The reason it is here is because I do find it really sad, but I think there's almost more of a bleak, sinister feeling rather than sadness. I am definitely sad, but there's definitely more of an undertone of sinister bleakness and kind of the disgust at the government, the disgust at the people who are doing this and raising children to be slaughtered, essentially. So yeah, I'd say it gives more of an eerie tone than sadness. I definitely do cry when I watch this film, but yeah, I'm putting it in okay because it's just, the overall vibe for me isn't sadness, it's bleak depressingness. So yeah, but I would really recommend the film. I think it is a very interesting film to kind of consider the morals and yeah, all of that stuff. And yeah, it is a very interesting film, so I would recommend it. Next up we have Beautiful Boy. Now straight away I'm just going to tell you, Beautiful Boy is going in sobbing, crying and throwing up, because I watched that film for the first time at in a cinema, and oh my god, it absolutely killed me. That film is so emotional, it's so gut-wrenching and sad. So Beautiful Boy is the film that stars Timothée Chalamet and Steve Carell, and it is a true story about father and son, and the son suffers with addiction. And yeah, this is a true story. It's based on a book written by the dad, who is a real man. I think the son has also written some books as well, so the film might blend the two, I'm not sure, but it takes the name of the dad's book, Beautiful Boy. And yeah, this film is gut-wrenching. It's sobbing, crying and throwing up. Like, it's so, yeah, it's like, it's a tough watch. I just think the relationship between the son and the dad, and the son has this disease and the dad just wants to help him, and it's so hard because he just wants to help his son, but he doesn't know how and kind of doesn't know if he can help him. And it's just, it's just so sad. And Timothée does an amazing job at his portrayal, and Steve Carell, I feel like the fact that he's, at least for me, I see him as more of a comedy actor. I think the only other serious thing I've seen him in is Little Miss Sunshine and The Big Short, but even both of those are quite comedic as well anyway. Yeah, I think seeing Steve Carell in a role that is in no way comedic and is very serious was so weird for me, because I expect him to be funny. Like, he's Michael Scott, you know? So seeing him so sad, and he also is so good in this movie, just seeing him so sad made me so upset, like so upset to just think about what this man was going through and what his son is going through. And it doesn't help that Steve Carell also reminds me of my dad, like that doesn't help. So yeah, this film is just gut-wrenchingly sad, but I think it is very, very important in terms of kind of just raising awareness for addiction and what the victims go through, and how addiction is a disease and it's not something that people choose, and addicts shouldn't be shamed, like they should be helped basically. So I do think it is very powerful, and I do like it, and I have watched it multiple times. But yeah, it's very sad, it's gut-wrenching, so that's why it's going in sobbing, crying and throwing up. Next up we have the film My Girl. This film is about a boy and a girl who are neighbours and childhood friends who are kind of growing up together. And I believe the girl's dad is I've forgotten the word, there's a specific job title that I've forgotten, but he works with bodies, like in a morgue. He works with dead bodies, getting them ready for their funeral. I don't want to spoil any films in this ranking, which I'm going to try not to do, but yeah, essentially sad things happen in this film. And I'm putting My Girl in Nicholas Sparks, because while I recognise that events of the film are sad, and like there's definitely sad moments and there's lines that are like that get me, it didn't hit me that much. It didn't. I think my main emotion was probably just shock. Yeah, it didn't fully do it for me, so it's going in Nicholas Sparks. So still better than Practically a Comedy, but yeah, it's Nicholas Sparks, because I think there are some films where things happen and for me, I'm like, I don't see why you did that. I don't see what the message was. And I think this is one of them, where it's like stuff happens and then I'm like, but why though? Like, I don't appreciate meaningless, sad things. Like, I don't appreciate like trauma porn, for example. So like, yeah, some things happen in films where I'm like, that didn't land for me, that didn't hit. and this is sadly one of them. So my girl is going in Nicholas Sparks. Next up we have The Vanishing of Sydney Hall. Now this is a film all about a writer played by Logan Lerman and kind of about his life, how he became a writer, and then after the fact, and him kind of giving up writing, because he decides to give up writing after publishing this amazing book that was like worldwide bestseller, like think Catcher in the Rye-esque. And then there's a personal detective who's kind of trying to piece everything together and find out why he gave up writing, what happened to him. And you also see like bits of his life, like the past of him at school and stuff like that. And this film is very, very sad. It is trauma porn, I would say, but it's the type of trauma porn where it wasn't too much. It wasn't like, okay, this is silly now. Like, it was definitely very sad. Like, I remember I was watching this and I was like, sad things just keep happening, because they did. But it did work for me, and yeah, I did really enjoy it, and I found it very interesting to kind of try and piece together this person, this enigma, what happened to him, what's going on. So The Vanishing of Sydney Hall for me is going in my tears Ricochet, because I definitely cried a lot, but it's not making it to the top tier, because yeah, I think it borderlines the kind of trauma porn line where it's kind of like, things keep happening to this man, they need to stop. So yeah, it's gonna go in my tears Ricochet. Next up we have The Notebook, and I'm sure everyone has heard of The Notebook, but written by Nicholas Sparks. It is the film about two kind of like, what is it, teenage lovers who fall in love when they're young, and then I believe the guy goes off to war, and then like they become estranged, and the woman, forgive me, I don't remember any of their names, the woman, as in the characters, Rachel McAdams, is getting married to someone else, and then there's all this drama about he still loves her, she's getting married to someone else, what are they gonna do, blah blah blah. And then there's this whole element as well of the woman being older in a care home and she's got dementia, and then the man is also in that care home, and yeah, and that's the gist. I'm sure you've heard of it anyway. And I'm gonna put The Notebook in Nicholas Sparks because I mean it was written by him, so yeah. No, I do like The Notebook, I do, but it's not my fave. There's definitely sad parts, like definitely, but it's not that sad for me. So I'm putting it in Nicholas Sparks because yeah, I don't think I actually cried. I do like The Notebook, I do enjoy it, but it's not one that I'm gonna rewatch over and over and over again, but I can appreciate certain elements of it. Right, next up we have Manchester by the Sea. So this is about a man played by Casey Affleck, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it literally happens right away, but essentially this man has moved away from his hometown, Manchester by the Sea. He's moved away, and then he gets called saying his brother has passed away. So this requires him to move back, at least for a little bit, because he needs to sort out the funeral and everything. And his brother had a son who was kind of estranged from his mum, so like this boy is all alone now, and he's kind of just dealing with all of this. Throughout the film you meet people that he's kind of estranged from, because obviously he moved away from his hometown, and you kind of find out why he ended up moving away, what happened. And this film for me is going in sobbing, crying, throwing up, because that's exactly what I did. I cried my eyes out. I found it so sad. Yeah, this film is so sad, and I think the performances are also really good, and it just aids the sadness. Lucas Hedges and Michelle Williams are in this film, and their performances are amazing, especially Michelle. I think her performances just stand out to me. Yeah, this film is just really sad, but for me it was kind of like unexpected sadness. Like, I don't know what I expected going into it. Like, I was like, it's a drama, that's what I expect, and it was just gut-wrenching, like so sad. But I do enjoy it, and I would rewatch it again, and I do rewatch it. But yeah, it's definitely a heavy one. Manchester by the Sea, so it's going in sobbing, crying, throwing up. Next up we have All the Bright Places. Now this is based on a novel. If you were a teen in 2014, you probably know this film and the book. It's based on a novel, and it's essentially about these two teenagers who fall in love in secondary school, but then there's kind of mental health issues there, because I believe, my memory is really working for me now, I believe the girl, her sister died, I think, like a year ago. So yeah, they're both struggling mentally, essentially. This film is sad, as you can probably assume because it's on this list. But yeah, this film is very sad. I don't think I connected with the film as much as the book, because they made the book into a film, and it was with Elle Fanning and that guy who's literally in every teen thing. I'll put his name on the screen because I don't remember his name at this point. They're the main characters, and yeah, that's the plot. And yeah, I found it sad. I think I did cry, but I didn't resonate with the film as much as the book, as I said. So I'm putting all the right places in my tears Ricochet because it is sad. I did cry. It had the intended impact, so it's on the second tier. But yeah, it didn't make it to sobbing, crying, throwing up, because yeah, just the film, I didn't connect as much. I don't know if it was to do with the casting of Elle Fanning, maybe. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I've just seen her in so many things that it's hard to be like, oh yeah, you're this character, because I've just seen her in so many things. So maybe if they got like some unknown talented actress, it would have been better. I don't know. But yeah, it's still in my tears Ricochet, so still second tier. Next we have the film P.S. I Love You. Now I hated this film when I was a child because when I was a child I just hated anything that was sad, basically. So I remember my mum putting this on and I was like, hey, I wanted a rom-com, and now we're watching something depressing as hell. But P.S. I Love You is a rom-com about a woman whose husband or boyfriend, I'm not sure if they ever got married, partner passes away, and then, because I think he knew he was going to die, he wrote all these letters to be sent to her like the year after he's gone, so she gets one like every few months or something. And yeah, this film is sad, as you can probably tell from the plot. Like that sounds sad. And I'll put this film in my tears Ricochet because I definitely cried. I hated it as a kid. I still don't love it. It's not my favorite rom-com. I just think, yeah, when I watch a rom-com, I'm not looking to be really sad. Yeah, I don't know, it's fine. And yeah, the exploration of grief is always gonna make me tear up, but yeah, I'm not screaming and crying with this one, but yeah, my tears did Ricochet. Okay, next up we have The Fault in Our Stars, and straight away I'm just gonna say this is going in okay. I mean, it had to, it's literally its tagline. Yeah, this is going in okay. When I watched this as a child, and I also read the book I was a teen, I feel like this is quite similar to All the Bright Places, and also actually A Walk to Remember. Like, if you really think about it, they're quite similar. But anyway, The Fault in Our Stars, when I watched it as a teen, killed me. I loved it. I loved the book, I loved the film. I found it gut-wrenching. If I was doing this as a teen, it would be in sobbing, throwing up, crying. But I'm not a teen anymore, and looking back, I'd still watch it as like a comfort movie to be like, oh, I remember those times. But it doesn't hit for me as much anymore, probably because of Ansel Elgort being Augustus, like just leaving a sour taste in my mouth. Yeah, that's really the only reason. It's a sad film. I don't know if I need to tell you the plot, but it's about 2 teenagers with cancer, like, and that's all you need to know. Like, yeah, so yeah, it is sad, and I do cry when I watch it, but it's going in okay because of Ansel Elgort, so sorry to that movie. Next up we have About Time. Now this may be like my most unpopular opinion ever, but I don't like About Time, and I feel like every woman loves it, and I do not like it. Watched it as a kid, absolutely hated it. I think I did rewatch it as a teen, still hated it. Maybe if I watched it now I'd like it, I don't know though. I feel like I've just built a grudge now, so I don't know if I could let myself like it. But yeah, it just didn't work for me. I don't know why. I think I found it boring. I think I couldn't connect to the main guy. I didn't like him potentially as well. Like, I just couldn't, yeah, I didn't get the vibes. So for me, About Time is going in Nicholas Sparks because it's got sad elements and I can recognize that, but it's not. I just don't think it's that good of a movie, even though so many people love it. So sorry if you love it. Maybe I need to give it another go, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know, it just doesn't hit for me. It's weird. It's same with like something like Love Rosie, which actually came out at a similar time. I hate Love Rosie. Like I just hate these two films that are so loved, but I just do. I don't know, they just do not work for me. So sorry. About Time is going in Nicholas Sparks. Next up we have Brokeback Mountain. Now this is the film about the gay cowboys, classic film where they essentially do a job together. They like have to go, I think they go into the mountain. It's actually called Brokeback Mountain. They go up into the mountains together, just the two of them, to do this job, and essentially, yeah, they fall in love, and it's a film that's all about toxic masculinity and homophobia and internalized homophobia and all this stuff. And it's Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal. So for me, this goes in my Tears Ricochet, because yes, I do find it really sad, and I do like the film. I think the story is important and good, but yeah, I wasn't sobbing, crying, throwing up, because I think the end, even though it's sad, definitely, like, I don't know, I think it just it makes me feel a certain way that's how it ends. And I'm not going to spoil it again, but it does make me feel a certain way, because I just think I've seen a lot of movies, and any ones that are like about homosexual stories or something, I'm always like, just let them be happy. Like I'm really getting to that point of like, can we let them be happy, please? Can we let them have a minute? So yeah, I don't think it's going and sobbing, crying, throwing up for me, because while it's sad, I just feel, instead of sadness, I just feel like, oh, I wish this had gone a different way, kind of. I wish that, I don't know, they'd done something else, but that's me being picky. I do still like the film, and yeah, I think it's important, and the performances are really good as well. Next up we have First Man. Now this is the movie about Neil Armstrong, starring Ryan Gosling, and this film is going in crying. I feel like I've been saying that category wrong so many times, so I'm so sorry. Sobbing, crying, throwing up, that's going in there, because that's exactly what this film made me do. It is so sad. It's just about Neil Armstrong, like, and him going to the moon and that whole journey. But essentially what made it so sad, and what I never knew about Neil Armstrong, is that he had a daughter who, yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I don't know if it's a spoiler. The film's been out for a while. Also, this is a real person. He had a daughter who died of cancer, and that is an integral part of the plot and kind of an integral theme and message throughout. So yeah, I just found this so sad. I didn't know that, and it's gut-wrenching. It's just really sad. Like, yeah, to lose a child, just terrible, and I think the movie portrays it really well. Ryan does an amazing job, and yeah, it's just really, really sad. That's all I can say. So that's why it's in the top tier for sadness, because it's just gut-wrenching. And I really like, though, how they showed the story. They showed such this historical moment, but through this lens of like Neil's grief and stuff. Like, I did find that really, really interesting and poetic as well. So yes, also a good film. So yeah, that is First Man.